In the quiet, sunlit town of Brookhaven, where the streets were lined with ancient oak trees and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, lived a woman named Grandma Matilda. She was a beloved figure in the community, known for her warm smile, endless patience, and a heart that seemed large enough to embrace the whole world. Matilda had lived a long and fulfilling life, and now at the age of 83, she found herself surrounded by a vast family, 7 children, 12 grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. Her home, a charming, weathered house at the end of Maple Lane, was the heart of the family, a place where everyone gathered for holidays, birthdays, and Sunday dinners. But in recent years, life had become more challenging for Matilda. Her once sharp mind had begun to slip, the memories she cherished becoming hazy and distant. She had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, a cruel disease that slowly stole her memories, and Parkinson's, which made her hands tremble and her body weak. The woman who had once been the backbone of her family, who had cared for her children and grandchildren with boundless energy and love, now struggled to remember their names or to hold a cup without spilling its contents. Her family, deeply devoted to her, did everything they could to help. They took turns visiting, bringing meals, helping with chores, and making sure she never felt alone. But despite their best efforts, Matilda's condition worsened. Her body grew frail, and her mind wandered more frequently into the fog of forgetfulness. The vibrant matriarch who had once been the center of every family gathering was now a shadow of her former self, lost in the maze of her illnesses. Matilda was aware, in her lucid moments, of how much she had lost. It pained her to see the worry in her children's eyes, to hear the whispers of concern when they thought she wasn't listening. But what hurt the most was her inability to care for her beloved grandchildren. She adored them, their laughter, their energy, the way they looked at the world with wide-eyed wonder. She wanted nothing more than to be the grandmother she had always been, to spoil them with cookies, tell them stories, and hold them close when they were sad. But her body and mind had betrayed her, leaving her feeling helpless and adrift. Her oldest son, Robert, was particularly affected by her decline. He was a kind and thoughtful man, deeply grateful for the sacrifices his mother had made to raise him and his siblings. He had always admired her strength, her resilience, and her ability to find joy even in the hardest of times. Seeing her like this, fragile and confused, broke his heart. But Robert was not a man to give up easily. He had spent years studying various forms of healing and self-improvement, from meditation to yoga, and had recently become interested in the power of the mind and the concept of manifestation. Robert had been reading about how the mind could influence the body, how thoughts and beliefs could shape reality. He had come across stories of people who had healed themselves from serious illnesses through a combination of visualization, positive thinking, and specific breathing techniques. It sounded almost too good to be true, but Robert had always believed in the power of the mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this might be worth trying with his mother. After all, what did they have to lose? One sunny afternoon, when the house was quiet and Matilda was resting in her favorite armchair by the window, Robert sat down beside her. He took her hand, noticing how frail and cold it felt in his own. Matilda looked up at him, her eyes clouded with confusion. But she smiled, a small, tired smile that still held a trace of the warmth he remembered from his childhood. "Mom," Robert began gently, "I've been thinking a lot about you lately, about your health and how much we all love you. I know things have been hard for you and I know you've been struggling, but I've been learning about something that might help, something that could help you feel better, maybe even help you get back some of what you've lost." Matilda listened, though her mind drifted in and out of focus. Robert's voice was soothing, familiar, and she tried to hold on to his words, even as they seemed to slip through her grasp. "It's called manifestation," Robert continued. "And it's about using your mind to create the reality you want. It sounds strange, I know, but there are techniques, breathing exercises, visualization that can help your mind and body work together to heal. I'd like to try them with you, if you're willing." Matilda didn't fully understand what Robert was talking about, but she trusted him completely. He had always been her rock, her dependable, caring son, and if he thought this could help, she was willing to try. She nodded slowly, her smile widening just a bit as she squeezed his hand. Over the next few weeks, Robert began teaching Matilda the techniques he had learned. He started with simple breathing exercises, guiding her to take slow, deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of air filling her lungs, and then gently releasing it. At first, it was difficult for her to concentrate, her mind wandering or becoming confused, but Robert was patient, encouraging her, reminding her gently to come back to the breath whenever she drifted away. As they practiced, Robert also introduced her to visualization techniques. He would sit with her, holding her hand, and ask her to close her eyes and imagine herself healthy, strong, and vibrant, just as she had been years ago. He guided her to picture herself moving with ease, her hands steady, her mind clear. He encouraged her to see herself playing with her grandchildren, cooking meals, and laughing with her family. Matilda struggled at first, her mind resisting the images, but with Robert's calm voice leading her, she began to see it, dimly at first, but then more clearly as the days passed. Robert also taught her to use affirmations, positive statements that she could repeat to herself, both aloud and in her mind. "I am strong," she would say. "I am healthy. My mind is clear. I am surrounded by love and light." At first, the words felt hollow, as if she were reciting lines from a play, but as she repeated them day after day, something began to shift within her. The words started to take root, to feel real, as if they were planting seeds of hope and healing deep within her. The changes were subtle at first. Matilda began to sleep more soundly, her body less restless during the night. The tremors in her hands, which had once been constant, seemed to lessen, if only a little. She started to have moments of clarity, fleeting, but there, where her mind felt sharp, where she could remember the names of her grandchildren or recall a story from her past with surprising accuracy. Robert noticed these changes, small though they were, and his heart swelled with hope. He knew they were on the right path. As the weeks turned into months, the changes in Matilda became more pronounced. Her tremors grew less severe, and she was able to hold a cup of tea without spilling it. She began to move with more confidence, her steps steadier, her movements more assured. But most importantly, her mind began to clear. The fog that had once clouded her thoughts began to lift, and she found herself more present, more aware of her surroundings. One morning, as she sat at the breakfast table with Robert and two of her grandchildren, Matilda suddenly realized that she hadn't forgotten their names. She looked at them. Little Emily with her curly hair and mischievous grin, and young Tommy, so full of energy, and she remembered not just their names, but their favorite foods, the stories they loved to hear, the games they liked to play. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized what this meant. The old Matilda, the one who had been lost to disease, was coming back. Robert watched in amazement as his mother's health continued to improve. He had believed in the power of manifestation, but even he hadn't expected results like this. His mother was healing, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. She was becoming the woman she had always been, the strong, loving, vibrant matriarch who had held their family together for so many years. Matilda's transformation didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the family. Her children and grandchildren, who had once feared that they were losing her, now saw her coming back to life. They began to visit more frequently, drawn by the changes they saw in her. Matilda's house, which had grown quiet and somber in recent years, was once again filled with the sounds of laughter, conversation, and the joyful chaos of children playing. One afternoon, Matilda found herself alone in the kitchen with her youngest granddaughter, Lily, a bright-eyed girl of 7 with a boundless curiosity about the world. Matilda had always had a special bond with Lily, who reminded her so much of herself at that age. Full of questions, always wanting to learn, to explore. "Grandma," Lily said, her small hand resting on Matilda's arm. "Mommy says you were sick before, but you don't look sick to me. You look like you're getting better." Matilda smiled down at her granddaughter, her heart swelling with love. "I was sick, sweetheart," she said gently, "but I'm feeling much better now. And do you know why?" Lily shook her head, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Because I started to believe that I could get better," Matilda explained. "Your Uncle Robert taught me how to use my mind to help my body heal. It's a bit like magic, but it's real. It's called manifestation. I learned to think about myself being healthy and strong, and little by little, I started to feel that way." Lily's eyes sparkled with wonder. "Can I do it too, Grandma? Can I use manifestation to make my dreams come true?" Matilda chuckled, her heart warming at the innocence and enthusiasm of her granddaughter. "Of course you can, Lily," she said, stroking the girl's soft hair. "You can use it to help you with anything you want. Just remember you have to believe in yourself and be patient. Good things take time." As Matilda's health improved, she began to take a more active role in her family's life. Once again, she started cooking meals, her hands steady as she chopped vegetables and stirred pots on the stove. She began to help her grandchildren with their homework, her mind clear as she guided them through math problems and reading assignments. She even started to host the Sunday family dinners once more, her home filled with the warmth and love that had always defined it. The more she engaged with her family, the more her health seemed to flourish. It was as if the act of caring for others, of being needed and loved, gave her the strength and energy she had been missing for so long. Matilda knew that the manifestation techniques she had practiced had played a crucial role in her recovery, but she also believed that love, the love she gave and received, was the true source of her healing. Her family marveled at her transformation. The woman who had once been bedridden, lost in the fog of Alzheimer's and crippled by Parkinson's, was now a picture of health and vitality. She was once again the heart of the family, the guiding force that brought them all together. One evening, as Matilda sat in her living room surrounded by her children and grandchildren, she felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. She had come so far, and she knew that she owed her recovery not just to the techniques Robert had taught her, but to the strength of her own spirit and the love of her family. As the years went by, Matilda continued to practice the techniques that had brought her back to life. She meditated daily, visualizing herself as healthy, strong, and happy. She repeated her affirmations, feeling the truth of the words resonate within her, and she continued to care for her family, finding joy and purpose in the simple acts of love and kindness that had always defined her life. Matilda's story became something of a legend in Brookhaven. People marveled at how she had defied the odds, how she had turned her health around when it seemed like there was no hope. She became an inspiration to many, a living testament to the power of the mind and the strength of the human spirit. And as she grew older, surrounded by the love of her family, Matilda knew that she had been given a second chance. She had been lost, but she had found her way back, not just for herself, but for the people she loved. And in doing so, she had shown them all that with belief, love, and a little bit of magic, anything was possible.